If a person doesn't have the sign that he's connected to Hashem, you can't trust him with anything.
Wherever you get your podcasts from, or our own website, prismoftorah.com. This is the Prism of Torah with Reb Shteinman. This week, Parshas Bo, proud to be a Jew.
Shalom to everyone. This week's Parshas Bo, as we know, we're starting the journey of the redemption, the Geula. We have 3 makas left, and towards the end, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is commanding us to do 2 mitzvahs. The mitzvah of bris Milah and the mitzvah of korban Pesach. We know korban Pesach, we took a sheep, and we took the blood also and put it on the doorpost. HaKadosh Baruch Hu then was poseach, skipped over the doors, the houses of where there was blood, and all the Egyptian houses, in each one of them, HaKadosh Baruch Hu killed every firstborn. Rashi, in this week's Parsha, Perek Yud Beis Pasuk Gimel, when it talks about the fact that we each take a sheep to our household, Rashi explains that we didn't have any mitzvahs and through which we can merit to leave Egypt and start our path to the Geula, the redemption, and all this is hinted in Psukim and Yechezkel, Vas Erom Ve'Eriyah, you're naked of mitzvahs, and hence HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us 2 mitzvahs, both of them are blood related, Dam Pesach v'Dam Milah, the blood of the korban Pesach and the blood of the bris Milah that we each did, as it says, also a hint over there in the Psukim, mitposeses bedomaich. 2 types of bloods we were dealing with, Dam Pesach and Dam Milah. The question is, what's so unique about these mitzvahs? The mitzvah of Milah and the mitzvah of korban Pesach. And it makes sense that we'll have some common denominator. Why? Because dafka they were chosen for Bnei Yisrael to do in order to have the appropriate zchuyot to leave Egypt. Out of all the 248 positive commandments that we have, these are the only 2 that if a person refrains from doing, even in a passive way, a person gets a horrible punishment, which is kares, which means he gets separated from HaKadosh Baruch Hu and Bnei Yisrael. What is so extreme about these mitzvahs that they deserved to be the mitzvahs we're dealing with, that we got in order to have the privilege to be saved by HaKadosh Baruch Hu, even though, as we know, Bnei Yisrael were not on the highest of levels, to say the least, in Mitzrayim, and yet these 2 mitzvahs enabled us to have the zchuyos to get saved. And also, what's so unique about those 2 mitzvahs, that their punishment is so extreme. So I want to suggest that the concept and what is unique about these 2 mitzvahs is that they both symbolize the disconnection from the goyim. Harei Bnei Yisrael were so together with the Egyptians, and that's why they reached such a low level of tumah, that these 2 mitzvahs are doing exactly the opposite. They're showing a clear demarcation between us and the goyim. We're different. Just like we say in Havdalah, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is mavdil, separates between or and choshech, so too HaKadosh Baruch Hu also mavdil between the goyim and Bnei Yisrael. And we have to do that, and that is what these mitzvahs accomplished. Disconnect from the goyim, a clear demarcation between us and them, and hence allows us to go tachas kanfei Shechina, and the Shechina can dwell with us because we'll become one with the HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Korban Pesach, this idea screams out, because what did we actually do? We took a seh, the sheep, which was the Egyptians' gods, and we slaughter it in front of their faces. We have to make sure we put it on the fire, and it's a unique korban that you don't take pieces of it. You take the whole thing as a whole, that you see it was a sheep, and you put it on fire. And if you're able to do that, that shows it's a clear symbol that you are trying to disconnect from the goyim. And then you take that same blood and you put it on the doorposts, symbolizing Bnei Yisrael. We have chosen to be with HaKadosh Baruch Hu and not with the Egyptians. Bris Milah is also the same idea. The idea is that we're making a sign on our bodies, an ois, bris. This is my identity, I'm a Yid, and we're doing it in our bodies. And again, we're ensuring everyone is aware, we're aware, we're making a stamp on our bodies that we are an Eved Hashem, we're connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Why are these 2 mitzvahs related to blood? As we said, ve'erech mitposeses bedomaich, because we know that blood, the dam, represents the chayus and the nefesh, the whole essence of a person and his nefesh. As it says in the pasuk, ki adam hu nefesh. And therefore it is the best way to express ourselves through these mitzvahs, to say we have changed. Our essence is a Yid. We're connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That is what the blood represents. That is who we are. Our essence, the blood is the essence, the nefesh of a person. We are different. We're not like the Egyptians. We are, and we're connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. With this idea, we can easily answer the famous question that my dear friend that helps us with all the technical aspects, and even more than that, on the website and the podcast. He's now writing up a shtickle Torah about why did HaKadosh Baruch Hu need us to put blood on the doorpost in order to know which houses to skip, and only hit the houses that don't have blood on them to kill their firstborns. HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows everything. He needs us to do that. The answer would be, the blood on the doorpost is not for Hashem. It's a way for us to declare and express ourselves to everyone. We are Yiddish and we're proud of it. I am proud to be of a Jew. And I want to be with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Tachas Kanfei Ashchina, and totally disconnected and have a clear demarcation from the mitzvahs that are full of tumah. We don't want to be like them. That's not what we're here for. With this, we can also answer why these two mitzvahs have such a severe punishment. These are the only two mitzvahs that say that if you refrain from doing, you get a huge punishment of kares, which is a disconnect from HaKadosh Baruch Hu and Bnei Yisrael. Because that is exactly what the essence of the mitzvahs are trying to do, the opposite of that. They're connecting us to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and to the team of Am Yisrael. And if we do not do these mitzvahs, then we're showing, chas v'shalom, we're not willing to disconnect from the mitzvahs, from the goyim. We want to be with the goyim, and hence that is the obvious result and punishment the person deserves. That's what you want. Okay, we'll give you that. You're going to be disconnected from Klal Yisrael, which is the biggest punishment. With this, we can also explain why Shabbos is the only mitzvah. Is the only mitzvah that if a person, or avera, that if a person is over Shabbos on purpose, is called muma lekol haTorah. Usually when a person we know is not good in a certain mitzvah, we can say, okay, we don't trust him for that thing. But if he is not shomer Shabbos, we don't trust him for anything. Muma lekol haTorah kula, it's called. What's pshat? Also avodah zarah is like that. So avodah zarah is obvious. If he's not oved Hashem, oved avodah zarah, how can we trust him for anything? For Shabbos, muma lekol haTorah kula, why? And the answer based on what we're saying is because what's Shabbos? It's also a sign that we're connected to Hashem. Ois hi beini lebeinechem. It's a sign between us and the HaKadosh Baruch Hu that we're connected. If a person doesn't have the sign that he's connected to Hashem, you can't trust him with anything. The Chavetz Chaim brings a famous mashal that if a person goes to a certain store to fix his shoes and he sees the store is closed, so he understands, okay, he's not here for a couple of days. But if he comes to the store and the whole sign on the top is gone, it doesn't say anymore the shoe fixers, then you know you're in shtoch, you know that store is finished. Same thing here. If a person that doesn't keep Shabbos, there's no more sign. Similar to the idea we're saying. What's very critical to understand over here is that the change had to come from Klal Yisrael. That's why HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us these mitzvahs. You want to be tachas kanfei Ashchina. You want to be together with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, where the Shechina is dwelling, and that HaKadosh Baruch Hu will save us and take us out of everything we're going through, out of all the issues, the dangers, and redeem us. You have to start from yourself. You have to take upon yourself these two important mitzvahs that show and scream out that you want to be with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And that's the general idea in life, that the first step has to come from us. Especially when a person is in tzarus and he needs help from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and he feels like he's a bit down and he wants to get close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we have to take the first step. When we take the first step, even if it's a small step, but we are showing signs of wanting to get close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu as a result of that act, but we need to start with that act. But if we do that action and we get close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that will be the petach, the window with which we will get shefa, abundance of bracha from HaKadosh Baruch Hu through that window we created. And that's what happened here with Bnei Yisrael. There's a famous mashal I want to add that Chazal bring down, that as we know, that Bnei Yisrael are nimshal to fire, And the goyim are nimshal to water. And we know that if you have fire and water, then the water takes out the fire. If we're going to mingle with the goyim and be exactly like them, chas v'shalom, that's going to be the end of it. But we can be a light to the nations if we have a demarcation between us and them. If there's a pot that represents the demarcation between us, Bnei Israel, the fire, and the water, then we're changing the water to be something better. We're heating up the water. It's a totally different ballgame. But we have to remember that we are different. We have to do our best to be different. And how are we different? The pot also represents the Torah. We have the Torah. We abide by the Torah. We have our own set of rules. And through those rules, we get closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I think it's very fitting, before I end up with the story, to tell you a Chai Adam. I have a Chavusa I learn every day now, Chai Adam with. And the Chai Adam says a little drasha. He says, in Aleinu Leshabeach, we say 4 times we say why we're different than Goyim. Why 4 different times? So the Chai Adam goes there in depth to say each Lashon, why it's different, what the difference is. I'm just going to share with you the first one. Shelo asanu ke'eratzois. He didn't create us like the goyim. What does it mean? The word of asanu, which means he didn't create us like the goyim. Asiyah is something to do with nefesh and neshama. As we know, kol nefesh asher asu becharan. It talks about Avram and Sarah, that they created nefashis. Why? Because they brought them closer to Hashem. He says our neshama is totally different than the goyim's neshama. Our neshama is created directly to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. As it says, the light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the candle of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Ner Hashem, Nishmas Adam. And Adam, we know, the Gemara says, represents Bnei Yisrael, not the Goyim. So we're connected, our neshama is connected directly to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Chelek Elokim Milah, as opposed to the Goyim. And more take idea that the Chai Adam writes in brackets. He writes that the acronym of these words, Shelo Asanu Kigei Aratzois, is Shin, Ayin, Kaf, Hey, which is 395, which is the same as the Neshama. And together, indeed, it comes to show us that the Neshama of a Yid is different than the Goy. I want to end up with a story I just heard 2 days ago. Exemplifies this idea, bringing us closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but it requires that we take the first step. Reb Shteinman, Zecher Tzadik Livrocha, suddenly he had a kid running, trying to burst into his house. He had tears in his eyes. He was 19 years old. And he banged on the door, he begged to get in there. But the Gabayim didn't let him in. But he kept asking. He was on the fence outside, begging to let him in. So eventually he lets him in. Before he goes in, he asks the Gabbai, please don't interrupt me. I want you to promise me you won't interrupt me when I speak to Reb Shteinman. So the Gabbai said, what do you mean? I'm doing you big chesed here that I'm letting you in. Everyone wants to come in here all the time. I'm letting you in and you're telling me I have to promise you. So this Bachar said, I'm sorry, you're right. You're doing me a favor. But it will really help me if you do this chesed to me. He goes, anyways, I don't bother people, so don't worry about it. This person looked like he was a very lost soul. He didn't have a yarmulke on his head, and he seemed like, but on the other hand, he seemed like he really cared. He wanted to speak to Reb Shteinman. He goes to Reb Shteinman, and he kept saying, Reb Shteinman, how about I get you a hamburger? The best hamburger of all times. Everyone loves this hamburger. Reb Shteinman didn't know what he's talking about. He probably doesn't even know what a hamburger means. I'll get you the best pizza. Pizza, it tastes amazing. You want me to get you a great falafel? And the Gabbai is looking at him and he's saying, what is this chutzpah? This is so far from where Shteinman is holding. Well, what is he doing? So he kicked him out. Meanwhile, other people come in. He's crying. He's begging to come in again. The Gabbai doesn't know what to do. On the one hand, it's chutzpah for him to. How can I let him speak to Shteinman? On the other hand, he saw this hurt neshama was crying. So he let him in. But he said, listen, you're being warned again. You cannot speak the way you spoke last time. He goes to Reb Shteinman and again he says, the same type of talk, but what if I get you the best falafel? Reb Shteinman gets up, and he wasn't young, he was in his 90s. He gets up, looks at the Bachar in the eye and says, Special Yid, what is bothering you? Why don't you tell me what's hurting you? I can see something's hurting you. He tells him, I come from a very important Chashuv family. I went to Yeshiva Ktana. And there, the learning was great the first year and a half, but then I didn't get into the learning. It wasn't sweet for me. I didn't like it anymore. So I got kicked out. Then I went to another yeshiva because my family's connected. And over there also I went to the street after that because also there I wasn't connected to the learning. What can I do? Even though a lot of people like learning, the learning is not sweet to me. For me, I don't enjoy it. And that's what he said to Reb Shteinman. Reb Shteinman looked at him in the eye and he said again to Reb Shteinman, just like the falafel, the pizza, the hamburger doesn't talk to you, so too, unfortunately, the learning doesn't talk to me. There's many people that love pizza and falafel and hamburgers. And I know there's also many people that like learning. But what can I do? I wish I was into it. I wish, but I'm not. Reb Shteinman then opened up to him and said to him a personal story. He said, before I moved to Bnei Brak, I was very, very poor. I lived in Kfar Saba. There I had almost nothing. What did I eat on Shabbos on a regular day? I went to fields, I took hefker, whatever was left, the fruits that were left. That's it. I barely ate. And then one day comes to visit me an old friend. And this old friend I was so happy to see, and I wanted to give him something to eat, but I had nothing in my house. So I look in all the cupboards. And finally, Baruch Hashem, I forgot I had this little jug, a container of honey, a sweet thing, would be great. I said, come, have a bit of honey with me. And my friend takes this honey, my childhood friend takes this honey, and he spat it out and he said, what is this? It was a bracha levatal, I can't even believe I said a bracha on it. And Reb Shteinman said to this bachor, that's 19 years old by the way, I was so embarrassed. It hurt me so much. I so badly wanted to give him something to eat. And even the little thing I had, it wasn't good for him. And then I said, how can it be that it's so bad? I took a spoon of honey for myself. It was gishmak, it was amazing. Then I told my friend, please open your mouth for a second. And I looked in his mouth. I should say I couldn't believe what I didn't see. Because there's everything there. There were cuts, there was blood, there was pus. And I told him, of course the honey's not sweet for you, because something's wrong with your mouth. You have to fix your mouth. Turns Reb Shteinman with a pause to the bachor and says, can you please tell me the truth? Tell me, how do you use your mouth? Do you say lashon hara? Do you speak not nicely about people? How do you use your mouth? The bachor was a bit embarrassed. He looked down and he said, it's even a hobby of mine to do these things, to be honest, and burst out crying. So Reb Shteinman said, you know what? What I want you to do is to go, today's Sunday, come back in 3 days from now, come down back on Wednesday, and I'm telling you right now, the only question I'm going to ask you on Wednesday is, did you have a clean mouth? Did you not speak badly about anyone, not lashon hara, and not make fun of anyone? That's all I'm going to ask you. And indeed, the bachor comes back, and he says to Reb Shteinman asks him, no, did you keep your promise? And he said, yes, I did. And he started learning Mishnayos, Maseches Brachos from the beginning. And he says, okay, today's Wednesday, I want you to come back on Sunday. I'm not going to ask if you put tefillin on. I'm not going to ask if you kept Shabbos. I'm not going to ask if you said brachos. I'm only going to ask you one question. Did you keep your mouth clean? So it goes, he came on Sunday and they continued learning. And suddenly the learning became gishmak. And this became a long journey of several years that they learned together twice a week. And things totally changed. Why? In my opinion, aside from the bracha of Reb Shteinman, of course, and aside from the fact that every Yid can reconnect HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but I think the main reason is that this person took the first step. The first step was number one, that he ran to Reb Shteinman and did his utmost to get there, and number two, that he kept his mouth clean, and from then, by today, he is a very chashuv person. Yiratzon that will all continuously do the first steps on our level to get closer and closer to Kadosh Baruch Hu, because as we know, life is a ladder, and we want to continue to grow and get closer to Kadosh Baruch Hu. Have a good Shabbos.
Thank you for joining us. This is the Prism of Torah. Visit our website, prismoftorah.com, where you'll find a full archive of hundreds of past Divrei Torah. Subscribe to the podcast, leave us a review, and don't forget to share with your friends and family. Sponsorship opportunities are available for all of our episodes. Thank you, Yona Vefa, for your recording equipment. Produced by Eli Podcast Productions.